Tax deferral solutions are legal strategies. They're not loopholes, which allow you to delay when you pay the tax bill. You could put that tax money to work for you instead of giving it away to the IRS.
Welcome to The Alternative Investor, the definitive show for investors seeking private alternative investments. Here's your host, Matt Johns.
Today I had a fascinating conversation with Chris Shockowitz, the Chief Operating Officer of DeferTax, a tax advisory firm that specializes in providing tax planning, estate planning, and wealth management to help people discover the right tax deferral solutions for them. Previously, he had spent 25 years innovating technology and managing teams at one of the world's most innovative companies, Intel. In 2016, he connected with his future business partner, CEO Carl Warden, when he was selling his own house. Carl had come up with a system to legally defer taxes on the sale of investment properties after doing a 1031 exchange that would retain some or all of the money and keep it working for his clients. When Chris personally benefited from the strategy, he immediately saw the opportunity to help scale this model and jumped on board. Now, not only is Chris enjoying his second career at DeferTax, he's an award-winning sci-fi author, and he also owned and operated his own digital marketing firm. There's so much to learn from their unique tax strategy, especially how it can benefit investors and alternatives. Welcome to my conversation with Chris Shockowitz. You spent 25 years of your career at Intel, one of the world's most innovative companies, and you were there for its most arguably innovative time.
Yeah, started working at Intel in 1991, and it was just a fun place to work. We were originally working with Microsoft on designing the current operating system. It's actually based on some older technology called NT. We were actually working with them on how NT was designed. I was working with them and Sybase and Ashton Tate creating the original SQL Server database. I was actually an architect for a while on search and some other technologies. And so I actually worked with Google on what Intel wanted out of search engines. So I did a lot of stuff that was very basic to technology. And just through my career, I just enjoyed going to from one thing to another. There's always something new to learn. So it was a lot of fun working at Intel.
Now, how did you go from Intel to sci-fi writer and now to DeferTax, where you're helping people with their tax planning?
Yeah. Well, part of, working at Intel, I progressed, I basically had been promoted 5 times. So I was a senior leader. I was running organizations. And then essentially, my VP came to me and said, "Hey, Chris, we're going to basically lay off your whole team, which was over 100 people, and move all the jobs to India. And we know that you know how to work with people in India. So we want you to lead this for us. And then when you're done, we'll find you something new to do." And I said, "Nope, I quit." I actually did some cursing along the way there as well. But he said, "No, wait a minute, don't quit. We have this retirement program. Just hang out for a couple months and you could do early retirement," because I was 55 at the time. So I qualified for the early retirement. So that was really nice of him. So in 2016, at the end of June, I basically left work for the last time, flew to my place in Mexico, hung out there for a couple of weeks, and I came home and I was just bored out of my skull because I was used to just going. And then I said, "Okay, I've got this idea for a science fiction novel." So I wrote it. And then I realized that not only do you have to write it, you have to market it. And I didn't really enjoy the marketing part of it. So then I was looking for something else to do. And in the meantime, I was selling my house in Santa Clara, California, right in the middle of Silicon Valley. And I was interviewing realtors. And one of them said, "Hey, I know this guy that can help you not pay tax on the sale of your house." I'm like, "Really?" So I talked with him, and that's the guy who's my current business partner, Carl Warden. We just kind of hit it off, and I sold my house. I had bought it for less than $600K. I sold it for $1.7 million, not because I was brilliant or anything. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and we paid no tax on it.
And that led you into your involvement with DeferTax.com.
So Carl and I were talking because he was the investment advisor on the money. And he and I just kind of hit it off. And he was saying, "My company's not really growing the way it should be." Go, "Well, let me take a look at it. I used to grow businesses inside of Intel, right?" And so, one thing led to another, and he hired me on as a contractor. And then we decided to partner and just go full time, in it together. I really like his ethics is very important to me. It's one of the things I liked about Intel also. Ethics is very important to Intel. Like Intel, for example, won't pay a bribe, period. So a lot of, what I kind of learned growing through Intel, I kind of carried forward to this business. And Carl was very much a very ethical person, really good person. I got along with him really well. And then we decided that we're going to grow this and take it across the country. And so since I had a lot of experience with that, I kind of was running the business pieces while he was kind of doing what all the tax deferral pieces are. And through osmosis, I learned all of that. And so now we're at the point where we've got kind of our base company and we're out there, talking to people like you.
And you're the chief operating officer, so you're in charge of a lot of the, I guess, the business end of the
Right.
responsibilities. But like that osmosis, you've taken in a lot of that tax deferral strategy mindset. So tell me a little bit about what that looks like, just in general. Who are your
Yeah.
typical clients? Why are they coming to you?
So it's a very broad range because we actually, since Carl and I partnered, we've added a bunch of strategies. So we kind of went from 7 strategies to 40.
Hmm.
So we can basically help a business owner save money on the operations of their business. Business owner can sell their business and defer the taxes. Basically, real estate owners, whether it's a primary residence, second home, investment property, we can help them not pay tax on the sale of business and defer the tax bill and be able to defer it either for a short time or for a very long time. We help real estate investors. We help high income earners basically reduce the taxable income annually. So, if somebody's making $1 million and they're in almost any state, they're going to be somewhere in that 40% tax bracket. We can actually knock that. And let's say they made $1 million, we could knock it down to $500,000 taxable income. So we can get them out of those higher tax brackets into lower tax
Hmm.
brackets.
That's awesome. So, okay, you're talking about tax deferral right now. And I know you said you sold your house, you paid no taxes on it, but eventually Uncle Sam gets his. I mean, the
Yeah.
tax is going to get paid at some point. So, the tax deferral strategy, what is that? Define
Yeah,
tax deferral. And then what are the benefits of deferring it? It's not just putting off the inevitable, there's some actual benefit to it.
exactly. So really there's kind of 3 things that we do. One, we can reduce your taxes, like I was talking about, where somebody has a high income. We can defer the taxes or we can eliminate them. Um, the tax reduction is pretty self-explanatory. We can basically find deductions that would lower your taxable income. The tax deferral, what you're essentially doing is you're getting a $0 loan from the US government, which basically says, because you followed certain rules in the tax code, we're going to let you essentially not pay the tax now, but defer it to a later point in time. Now, why would the government do that? Well, a lot of people look at the tax code and they see this as the document that defines how much you pay in taxes. I don't see it that way. I see something much more inspirational hidden within that tax code. It does tell you what you owe in taxes, but it also tells you how to save in taxes. So the tax deferral solutions are legal strategies. They're not loopholes, which allow you to essentially delay when you pay the tax bill. And in the meantime, you could put that tax money to work for you instead of giving it away to the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
So a simple example, almost most real estate investors understand, is something called a 1031 exchange. It lets you sell a property and buy something of equal or greater value and not pay the tax bill. You've deferred the tax bill. Now, one of the strategies is you just keep deferring that tax bill through 1031 exchange after 1031 exchange. And eventually, all of us eventually pass away. Well, when you pass away, there's a step up in basis, and essentially you've eliminated the taxes for your heirs. That's one strategy. It's one out of many, probably hundreds of strategies that we actually do.
And that's the tax elimination strategy, right?
Well, that's a tax deferral that leads to a
Thank
tax
you.
elimination. The one tax elimination strategy we have is actually with an opportunity zone. What
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity zone does, if you work with the right companies, is essentially you make a 10-year investment, you're deferring your taxes up front. But if you hold the investment for 10 years and you're working with the right company that will actually pay the short-term tax bill for you, in 10 years, the taxes are completely eliminated. So the money comes out tax-free.
Those opportunity zones are incredibly powerful tax, I guess, vehicles that people
Yeah.
are able to use now. And what they're only they're since 2017, I think, something like that. So they're relatively new
Yeah.
still.
In the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 is when qualified opportunity zones were
Mhm.
defined. Then about 2019, everybody kind of figured out how to actually do them because the law wasn't super clear. And so since 2019, companies have been doing these, and we tend to work with companies that are very large. They're doing $100 million to $500 million deals, and you come in as an incremental investor, so you don't have to find your own opportunity zone. You can invest in someone else's with a major operator that knows what they're doing.
And one of the strategies I know that you deploy within I guess these 40 different strategies is you use the Deferred Sales Trust. It's
Right.
sort of an intermediary. Can you kind of explain how that mechanism works?
So the Deferred Sales Trust is a very flexible tool. It's actually our most flexible tool. And the way that it works fundamentally, if you have some asset that you're selling, this could be primary residence, second home, investment property, business, stocks, bonds, crypto, almost anything with a capital gain, artwork, cars. If you're selling it, it has a fairly significant capital gain of about 500K or more. We can use a deferred sales trust to essentially defer that tax bill. And therefore, that money, 100% of it would be working for you instead of, paying a large chunk of it to Uncle Sam. So the way that it works is, if I take a real estate example, because it's usually easy for people to understand. Let's say I've got an investment property and I want to sell it, but I don't want to do another 1031 exchange. I'm tired of tenants, termites, trash, toilets, teenagers. I want out of the rental business, right? Well, what you can do is you can enter into a 1031 exchange and then exit it. Instead of buying more property, you can exit it into a deferred sales trust. Now, the way that this works, it's based on IRC 453, which is a tax code around installment sale law. Now, you can do something similar where I've got this investment property and I come along to you and say, hey, Matt, I want to buy your property, but I don't have the cash. Would you do owner financing? And you say, okay, sure, put 50% down or something, and I'll finance 50%, whatever. Well, what you just did is you used the tax code IRC 453, because when you did that owner financing, you don't pay tax on the amount. At least you don't pay tax now, it's deferred, but you don't pay tax right now on the portion that you loaned, because you never took possession or control of the money. You don't pay tax. That's called the constructive receipt rule. You don't pay taxes on something if you don't take possession of it. So long story short, what we do is we use that same law, but we put a trustee in the middle of the transaction. So the seller sells to the trustee, and in escrow, the trustee sells to the buyer. The buyer brings their own cash, their own financing. The money drops into a custodial account. And then basically the seller is not paying tax because they never took possession or control. So this money now sits within a trust, and that trust can invest any way you want. So you can do stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You could do crypto. You can invest in more real estate. You can buy another business. You could actually sell a business or sell real estate, let's say, put it into a deferred sales trust, and then use the money to go buy a business. Or you can basically sell a business, put the money in deferred sales trust, go buy real estate. So you can change asset classes. It's a very flexible tool. And in the meantime, basically what you've done is you deferred the tax bill. So now you got that 0% loan from the IRS, which basically says you don't have to pay the federal or the state taxes on this sale. So that money is now sitting in an investment account that works for you. So it works for people that are downsizing. Let's say they're in an expensive home on the coast and they want to move to Montana or Florida or something. Well, they can sell their expensive home, move to a cheaper home, and essentially take the rest of the money that's left over, put it into this trust, and generate income for retirement. Or you can be an investor who, like I had this one guy that had 50 single family residences. He wanted to sell those and then take the money to go buy a multifamily, but he was going to have 50 escrows. There's no way to time that out, make 1031 exchanges work. So instead, each one of those 50 escrows went into this trust. He stacked up the money, about 100,000 each. He had $5 million then to go use to go buy an investment property, a multifamily, and he still didn't have to pay the tax on it because of the way that we structure it all out.
That's interesting. Now, when we were talking earlier, you'd mentioned that 1031s, we know that if they don't work out, if you don't get it within the time frame, you have to pay the tax burden on that. Yeah. But these deferred sales trusts can act as kind of a buffer for that time frame, or even indefinitely extend it for this purpose, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually say, I'm going to do a 1031 exchange, and maybe there's low inventory. Maybe there's something I very specifically want, or maybe my deal falls through. Actually, 15% of 1031 exchanges fail, which is a big number.
It is a big number.
So what you can do is you can say, okay, well, this deferred sales trust is set up on contingency, which means you don't pay anything unless you use it. So I could set this up as a backup to my 1031 exchange. And then if the exchange fails, I could put the money in the trust and then go buy real estate later, and even much later, 2 years later, 5 years, 10 years later. And in the meantime, it's earning income. So that's one of the several strategies that we have to set up backups to your 1031 exchange or to any real estate sale, so that you never get stuck paying the tax bill if things don't go the way you wanted them to go.
If anybody wants to walk off the street and set this up themselves, is that something they can do with their attorney, or is there another mechanism that needs to be put in place to make this possible? How does that work?
Yeah. So there's many companies out there that do something similar. By the way, it's not my company that does it. Our company, what we do is we basically are investors. So I've done, five multi-million dollar 1031 exchanges. When I worked at Intel, I had a great salary. I did a lot of stock investing. So I understand the markets, right?
Hmm.
So essentially what we do is we go out and we look at, well, what's the best solution for these different problems? And we go find the companies out there and we vet them by actually using them ourselves. So like I've done a deferred sales trust myself, like I said.
Great.
So I know how it works because I've done it. And most of the things that we actually recommend to people are things that we have done or we've done many times with clients. Um, so the deferred sales trust, I kind of lost track of your question.
Is there a mechanism that needs to be put in place?
Well, it's interesting you should ask that. So there's a lot of different companies that do something similar to the deferred sales trust. There's only one deferred sales trust that was actually invented by Tom Campbell about 25 years ago. This company has done over 3,000 of these trusts. They've been audited about 30 times, never paid a penny to the IRS or to any tax board, state tax board. It is patented, actually. But what's really different about this company, not just the fact that they've been there for a while and they've been doing this for a while, and they do so many different types of assets that they put into trusts, but in addition, they actually stand behind their work. So they actually will provide an audit defense for the deferred sales trust for
Oh,
free.
that's great.
So if you set up a trust with them, they actually stand behind it and they live the logo, right? We believe that these are sound investments and we'll prove it by backing them up for no charge.
Awesome.
And that's kind of the hallmark of what we look for. We want to find companies that, really believe in their product and stand behind them and not, oh, you can go get a lawyer to go do something for you. It's like, yeah, you don't believe in your own product.
But what's great about it, you've entrusted them with your own investments. This is your own money on the
Yeah.
line that you put out there. And so it's got a real, there's a reason to trust you with that as well. I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. 1.2 million of my
That's
money,
right.
isn't
So,
it?
but the next logical question is, why am I not hearing about this from my CPA or from other folks who are my financial professionals?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons. So one, when you have these types of solutions, they don't necessarily go out and advertise them on, just everywhere. And the main reason why is, they don't want to, get to a level of familiarity where the IRS starts going, I should shut this down,
Mhm.
That's one. But number two, there are some rules around what you can do and what you can't do when it comes to the SEC, because at the end of the day, this is not a securities product, but securities go inside of
Mhm.
it. So there's certain rules that you have to follow. And the SEC has been a little fickle in terms of things that they will allow you to do one day and then, a year later they change their mind. And so we tend to be very conservative, and this company is actually also very conservative in terms of walking the line and being very clearly on the right side of the line.
Well, you stressed being ethical and how important that is to you personally. And so when you jumped
Yep.
into this, that was something that you were obviously looking for. And there's an area when it comes to taxes, ethical is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah, for me, actually, what it was is my father had passed away, and he had just done a lot. When I was doing his eulogy, I had found out, there was all these people I didn't know that he had helped and done, all kinds of things for them.
Hmm.
And he tended to be a very hands-on guy. So he did, fix electrical things, help somebody fix a roof, help somebody fix their fence and catch their cows and bring them back because he was kind of out in the country.
Mhm.
But I just kind of said to myself, I want to be in a role or a job function where I'm going to be able to do something meaningful to help people in their lives. And,
Mhm.
finance is a pretty impactful thing if you help somebody
Gosh.
with it and do it right.
You primarily work with advisors and do a lot of close hand-to-hand work with advisors to help them integrate this into their financial practices. What problems are they seeking your help with? I mean, obviously in learning this, but what problems are they hearing from their clients?
Yeah. So at a high level, the advisors that we work with tend to be registered investment advisors, and they tend to be somebody who's trying to grow their business. So, if somebody's got a big business that's running well for them, they don't necessarily want to take on anything new, right?
Mm.
So we're looking for people that are kind of, hungry to grow their business, right? And what we ultimately would like to do is to get to the people educated to the point to where they're somebody that we want to take on board as a franchisee owner, because we actually have a franchise process. We have one in the panhandle of Florida and we have one in Southern California. And we're in the process of doing more where we basically teach them all the strategies that we use. And if they essentially join our program and then reach a point of proficiency where they really know what they're doing and we can confirm their ethics, then we're willing to take them on as a franchisee. And what they're hearing from their clients is just, it's really basic stuff. Like we had this older person in Capitola, California. They had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. They were listing it for 2.2 million, and that was lowballing it. The property is very expensive there. And they wanted to move with their friends to go live in Georgia. And they visited them. They really liked Georgia. And so these people are making about $6,000 a month income off of, Social Security and the retirement and stuff like that, which in California is not a lot of money. Just the taxes on that house are probably $10,000 a year. So what did we do for them? Well, we actually showed them how they could basically refinance their house, take some cash out, go buy a place in Georgia, sell their house, list it and sell it, and then take the income from that into a deferred sales trust. We put that then into investments. And then long story short, that couple is now living in a paid for house in Georgia by their friends where they wanted to go. And they're making $20,000 a year instead of $6,000 a year. And why? Because we basically were able to structure that deal and defer the taxes.
That's fantastic. So and that's a great example of the power of deferring the taxes rather than paying them up front or looking for alternative means to reduce the tax burden. Putting that money to work for yourself and for our country, really, to build the country for future purposes.
Yeah, one of the things we like to say is, why does the tax code set up the way it is to let you have these tax deferrals? Well, if we Americans invest in America, we the people win. What's the tax code designed to do? Number one, it wants you to get married. You get a tax break if you get married. Well, why would it want you to get married? Well, 2 people financially are stronger than one, right? And wants you to have kids. Why? Future taxpayers and kids drive consumption, which drives the economy, right? Number 3, they want you to buy a home. Why? Well, you're invested in your community. Now you care about this country more because you've got this property and you've got the schools and you've got your kids and all that, right? Number 4, they want you to own a business. Why? So that you'll actually hire people and create jobs. And they want you to invest in real estate. Why? Well, when I'm first out of high school, I need an apartment to live in. I can't afford to buy a house. Well, some investor is creating a place for me to live. And some doctor who's just starting their practice, they can't afford to buy the land. So now that doctor has a place to do their practice by renting, office space, and on and on and on, right? So all of this stuff is about building America and investing in America. If you go look around and drive down the street, you're going to see, every building that you see, somebody owns it. It's not all owned by the government. It's owned by individual investors. And those individual investors are doing so to make a profit. And so what, these tax code changes do is they direct you how they want you to go spend the money to go basically invest in America. And that's good for America. It grows the economy, it grows our infrastructure. It's one of the reasons why we're one of the greatest countries on the earth, because we have this investment model that drives people to go invest. A lot of people misunderstand how money even works. And I think financial acumen in this country is very poor. Average kid coming out of college, even out of high school for sure, but even out of college, they can't balance checkbooks, let alone kind of understand how economic systems really work and function, and why investing in real estate is a great investment. And investing, or you can invest in the stock market, you can invest in crypto, you can invest a lot of different ways. But why are all those ways there? Because it actually generates a return. It adds value to the economy.
Yeah. So, and that's a great place to kind of wrap things up. But I do have one more question for you. You mentioned the financial acumen and where we're deficient right now. If you could push one thing out there, one educational tool or one bit of education, what would you want to promote from a financial basis?
Well, what we do in our business is we specifically focus on helping people understand, the tax bill. And, we think the financial services industry is fundamentally broken. And the reason why is, who's your advisors when it comes time to do a major life event, like that family that I talked about, that lived in this 2-bedroom house, right, on the coast. Well, who do they go talk to for advice? Well, they talk to a realtor who says, I'm sorry, I can't give you tax advice. They say, go talk to your CPA. Well, your CPA is trained to tell you how much you owe in taxes, not necessarily how to save them. Good ones will give you some, but they don't know them all. We don't know them all because there's so many of them, but we do know the ones that are vetted and worked, right? And then next you go to your investment advisor and say, hey, Mr. Investment Advisor, what do I do? I'm selling this house. And they'll say, well, when you're done selling the house, give me the rest of the money. I'll go invest. None of them are telling you the macro level ways that you can actually save on taxes. So we believe the financial services industry is broken, and we'd like to be the thing that fixes it in this particular niche of telling people not just how to be able to legally save on the tax bill, but also what to do with the money that you save so that you can actually parlay that into a financial plan that's going to, build you longer term wealth or even generational wealth.
Absolutely. Using the tax code for your advantage.
Exactly. And it's there to do that. It's designed for you to do that.
That's right. Chris, where can we find you?
So the easiest place to reach us is at DeferTax.com. That's DEFERTAX.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Alternative Investor. If you found this valuable, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. This show is brought to you by Honey Hive Capital Partners. Visit us at honeyhivepartners.com to continue your alternative investment journey. This recording represents the views and opinions of its guests and does not reflect the views and opinions of Honey Hive Capital Partners, LLC. Nothing in this recording, nor any communications from it, should be treated as constituting financial, investment, legal, tax, or other advice of any kind, or as a recommendation to buy or sell an interest with respect to any investment. We look forward to you joining us next time.